It is once again time, everybody. Monday Night Raw, August 25th, 2014. And you know what's kind of funny about this episode of Raw is everyone shits on it, and I personally thought that it wasn't as bad as people said it was. But more on that in a second. As for Rye of Champions, for a show that's supposed to be this be-all, end-all show, the big granddaddy of them all that's supposed to get people to resubscribe to the WWE Network, it sure seems like the WWE are pretty, they sure are getting, cold feet about what they want to do with this show. I mean, you have Rusev and Jack Swagger who have like 50 different feuds. You have Nikki, who was apparently joining the Authority last week, and this week it looked like it was completely dropped with the absence of Stephanie McMahon anywhere on TV. You have Code Dust turn heel for absolutely no reason, even though as a testament from someone who was at a Raw show last week, they're your most over tag team. You have Roman Reigns, who was apparently getting built up for a rematch with Randy Orton based off last week's WWE television on Raw and SmackDown. Now starting a feud with Seth Rollins, which does make sense, but what doesn't make sense is that the whole Randy Orton angle was dropped. Randy Orton was completely MIA throughout the night. So this episode of Raw was pretty disorganized and kind of put everything back from the beginning. It put everything back to the beginning of the line. And they pretty much hit restart on anything that wasn't Brie versus Nikki and Cena versus Lesnar. So let's not dip our feet anymore into the pool. Let's just dive right in and start off with Cena versus Lesnar. And a little mini rant that I'd like to go on that I just happened to notice as of late. If we remember correctly, last year, CM Punk was the WWE champion for 460 some days. It was put to an end by, in my opinion and a lot of people's opinions, the greatest superstar in WWE history, The Rock. And if we remember correctly again, which MT Ho and I almost always do, the IWC just so happened to bury The Rock to the moon after putting an end to the almighty CM Punk's reign, despite the fact that, back then we had up-and-comers like The Shield and Ryback who could have put an end to it. They would have raged about that as well, but instead they get mad. Fuck. Let me restart that shit. It was put to an end by, in my opinion and a lot of other people's opinions, the greatest superstar in WWE history, The Rock. And if memory serves me correct again, the IWC wanted to kill themselves after the Great One defeated the almighty CM Punk for the WWE Championship at the Royal Rumble last year and put an end to the 460-some day reign of CM Punk. And yet, these same IWC members, mind you, these are the ones that actually stuck around, because I know a good percentage that actually stopped watching because The Rock won the belt off of CM Punk. But those that did stick around are the same ones that are praising Brock Lesnar right now for being a part-time champion after leaving the business and defeating a reign of a guy who was a top guy in the industry right now. And you know what's funny about this is that both me and MT Ho predicted that something like this was going to happen in the future back in 2013 when The Rock did defeat CM Punk for the belt at the Royal Rumble. We knew that the only reason that people were getting mad at The Rock and burying The Rock was because it was at the hands of their almighty CM Punk, of their God if you will. And yet, if it came to an end at the hands of a guy like John Cena, then it wouldn't be the same deal anymore, now would it? And this is like the fuck. And this isn't something that we're just saying just to stick it to the IWC like it seems like we always want to do in our videos. The comparisons here are uncanny. Think about it. This is a guy who was a part-timer, left the business. Everyone is supposed to hate him because he defeated The Undertaker's streak, yet people love him now because he put John Cena's reign to an end. Yet we look at a guy like The Rock, who left the WWE to do bigger things, still comes back every now and then, actually gives a damn about the business, bleeds the business, gets shit for putting an end to a reign just because it was CM Punk's reign. And let's put this in even more perspective right now, just to prove our point a little bit. Think about if Daniel Bryan never got injured, and that beating at SummerSlam would have been from Brock Lesnar to Daniel Bryan instead of from Brock Lesnar to John Cena. Think about how angry the IWC right now would be, how fucking they would just completely throw the WWE out of their lives forever if it was Daniel Bryan that received that beating from Brock Lesnar like the original plans said they would. Now, I can already hear an argument saying, hey, you know, we don't love Brock Lesnar, we just love how he's being booked. Well, let me ask you something. If The Rock were to have that same run he had back in 2013 right now, and he was the one to put the end to John Cena's reign, and he was the one that was going to go on to WrestleMania to pass the torch to Roman Reigns, and Brock Lesnar was the one that put an end to CM Punk's reign, but he was booked the exact same way as he is right now, would this be a different story? No. So that's just a little something that got underneath my skin. Yeah, this is just one thing that really kind of bothered us, well, mostly me, seeing the IWC just praise Brock Lesnar to the moon and just like jizz all over him when these same guys were over here raging about another part-time champion in The Rock putting an end to CM Punk's reign. It makes me sick. But on to the Cena versus Lesnar feud. This was basically built up in a video package of Brock Lesnar talking shit, which I already said I really enjoy these things, so I have absolutely no problem with this. This was kind of the problem, like, okay, this is one thing that I will give to the IWC is that Brock Lesnar does these video packages when he's away, and I don't really remember The Rock doing a lot of these in the same fashion. Like, I remember them doing, like, videos of him and his decorated career, but that was just to remind us that The Rock was there, not to remind us that, you know, he's feuding with somebody. Whereas with Brock Lesnar, he's literally going every week, you know, shitting on John Cena. And tonight, they built up John Cena to have some sort of chance against Brock Lesnar at Rise of Champions by having him completely kill the Wyatt family. I mean, if you wanted to build up John Cena, that's fine, but why at the expense, no pun intended, why at the expense of one of your most interesting stables, your interesting factions, and one of the most different characters you have on the roster in Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family? Like, I understand, yeah, you know, him squashing the Wyatts supposed to make him look strong. The Wyatts are monsters and everything, but I mean, this still was a complete obliteration of the Wyatt family, and for what? I mean, yes, you're making John Cena look strong, but why does he still need to look strong right now? Why do you guys need to make him look superhuman again? When the fact that he did look human actually might have gotten some people to get behind him against Brock Lesnar. You know, I had that sinking feeling throughout the night that, you know what, they're making John Cena look like he has absolutely no chance. And usually when that happens, John Cena ends up winning. But after he killed the Wyatts, I'm like, well, At least Brock Lesnar's probably winning now because now they're actually making Cena look superhuman again. Anyway, I have also seen online that people are raging also about, Cena killing the Wyatts as well as I just have, even though they would have been praising the hell out of Daniel Bryan killing the Wyatts. I really wonder if Daniel Bryan had never gotten injured, how the whole perception of this whole storyline would have changed. Brie Bella versus Nikki Bella. I kind of like what they did here with the whole Jerry Lawler, interviewing them, trying to get them to reconcile, even though Jerry Lawler didn't really do a whole lot to try and get them to make up with each other. And then it ended with Nikki Bella, calling Jerry Lawler an old man. What a disrespectful bitch. Anyway, she ends up assaulting Brie, and I gotta say, Brie is selling the hell out of this feud. I actually, felt a lot of sympathy for Brie throughout this entire segment, and I actually believed it. Now, as for Nikki, she's not bad at all. It's just my only gripe with it is that sometimes she's a little bit exaggerated and a little bit too over the top in her promo skills and her promo cutting. Like, this feud of sister versus sister can sell itself without her having to overdo it every now and then. Like, yes, here and there it's fine, but it gets to a point sometimes where it's like, is that really necessary, or did you really have to go that far? And I don't mean that from a kayfabe standpoint. I mean that from, your acting and your promo cutting and your screaming, etc. But overall, this was a good segment. It did work. It did what it needed to, and it looks like they are going with this whole, Brie doesn't want to fight Nikki because she's the Undertaker, and, Nikki is Kane, so I guess Nikki must be wearing a mask right now. She's probably going to unmask after losing a world title match to Triple H sometime down the line. Anyway, this one, it looks like it's going to be a little bit questionable for Raw of Champions. There's a highly likely possibility that it will make it, but then there is that little possibility of, Brie's not going to want to fight her or something, so maybe the Authority sticks her in some kind of a handicap match at Raw of Champions. But again, that just leaves you with what the hell is Raw of Champions going to consist of besides maybe this match and Lesnar versus Cena for sure. Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns. So I thought that the eulogy of Dean Ambrose was the best segment of the night. And Seth Rollins, just like Nikki Bella, sometimes has the tendency to overly exaggerate in his promo cutting and overdo it to a certain sense. And that's one thing that they could work on, but I will give it to Seth Rollins. He has improved, all right? He's not nearly as bad as he used to be on the mic when he was with The Shield. Anyway, but I thought overall this segment was creative, it was fun, and, it did what it needed to. I haven't seen something like this since Kane buried The Undertaker alive not too long ago. So it writes off Dean Ambrose until late September since he's going to be filming a movie, and that's like just in time for Hell in a Cell season, so maybe this feud is going to be solved inside a Hell in a Cell, or I'm sorry, we're in PG, Heck in a Cell. And I think that'd be pretty interesting, These two mix pretty well together. Yeah, so the pairing of these two inside a Hell in a Shell Shock would be extremely interesting and extremely fun considering, they made it a lumberjack fun. Now imagine what they can do inside the Devil's Playground, Hell in a Shell Shock. Anyway, but for the time being, it looks as though Seth Rollins is going to be feuding with Roman Reigns. While it does make sense, it does look a little bit weird because not only was Randy Orton not on TV tonight, one match that was kind of anticipated for Raw of Champions was Roman Reigns versus Triple H, since it ended up not happening at Shell Shock Slam. So we kind of expected it to go at Raw of Champions in order to sell more for that pay-per-view. But instead, we're probably going to get Rollins versus Reigns, which I have no problem with whatsoever. I think this is a brilliant feud that should have happened from the get-go. I don't know why they booked Roman Reigns to just not care about the Shield anymore. and Dean Ambrose was the only one that took that turn to heart. So I'm interested to see where this goes and if maybe this will be for the Money in the Bank briefcase. I think, the IWC will finally turn on Roman Reigns if he wins the Money in the Bank briefcase off of Seth Rollins. So yeah, this was kind of a weird thing, but it did make a little bit of sense and it worked. So I'm just fine with this feud. United States Championship feud between two of the greatest superstars in the history of the wrestling business and easily two of my favorites. I think I'm going to get, both their faces tattooed on each arm. Sheamus versus Cesaro. Anyway, on a serious note, who cares? What the hell has Cesaro done besides beat Bob Van Dam this week to become #1 contender for the United States title? And, I mean, if that's all it takes, I got a list of guys who have already beaten Job Van Dam since the beginning of August. And that's a long line of guys that have beaten Job Van Dam since the beginning of August that deserve a shot at the United States title then. Anyway, just one thing that I wanted to mention here because it really bothered me, mostly because it was Sheamus and Cesaro in the whole segment, was that when Cesaro threw the belt at Sheamus, Cole said, Cesaro continues to play mind games with Sheamus. What the fuck mind games has he been playing if he just became #1 contender 30 seconds ago? And what exactly is a mind game when someone throws a belt at someone? God damn it, Michael Cole. As if I wasn't pissed off enough about that. Anyway, the Usos versus the Dust Brothers. And one thing I just want to mention here is it's a damn shame about the budget cuts. They had to cut Goldust's name short. They had to cut it just down to gold, as you heard by Justin Roberts' announcement after they won the match. The winners of the match were Gold and Stardust. So it looks like they had to cut Goldust's name short due to budget cuts. My heart goes out to the WWE for not having enough money to keep another syllable in Goldust's name. But anyway, randomly, they turned heel on the Usos. And I don't know if the fans were just pro-heel or if they just didn't realize that they turned heel. But they cheered them after they turned heel, and then after they attacked them a little bit, they started booing. So I don't know. That's just one gripe I had tonight was the fans were complete garbage throughout the night. Either they were dead or they didn't know how to react. They were like a virgin's penis on his first time. They didn't know how to react. Or they were just dead the whole night. So, yeah, the crowd was complete garbage, and I think that pretty much wraps up every feud going on. I mean, I talk about Bo Dallas versus Jack Swagger versus Rusev versus Mark Henry, but, I mean, I'm not sure which one to talk about. Anyway, I think the Bo Dallas versus Jack Swagger one is kind of interesting and fun if Bo Dallas is going over, which he's probably not because the WWE just seems to love pushing Swagger for whatever reason, even though he's overrated in the ring and has no charisma whatsoever. So, yeah, and there's another thing that me and MTO both noticed throughout the night, and MTO was the first to point it out. They really do not have any star power whatsoever in the WWE right now. And if there was ever a time when the bandage came off and it exposed that, it's right now that it's happening. Because literally every other match tonight was filler. That's why everyone is burying this episode of Raw. I mean, it literally looks like right now, and I thought I would never say this, that the Divas division has more depth than the men's division right now. I mean, the only real stars that you have on WWE television these days are who? John Cena. I don't know if you would really call Randy Orton that much of a star anymore, considering he just put over Roman Reigns, and it doesn't seem like that big of a deal. You have Daniel Bryan, who's out injured, and that's if you consider him a star, considering he just became a main eventer last year, a bona fide main eventer last year. And that's about it. And then we look at the diva side of things, where we got the Bellas, who are featured even heavier than any other diva right now. You got AJ, who's the face of the division in a certain sense. You have Paige, who's the young, I guess you could say, impressive diva. Anyway, so if anyone, you know what, I'm gonna leave this out for all of you guys, and I will stick to my word on this. I will give anyone a free 10-minute AJ burial if anyone can guess 100% the Night of Champions 2014 match card. Anyway, this has been an episode, this has been Raw. What the fuck, dude? What the fuck is wrong with Divas Championship AJ versus Paige? No, it's weird is that each time they do something like this, it seems like a little bit more air is taken out of the feud. I mean, I'm enjoying this, obviously. But as for a casual fan, like, if I can see it through the eyes of a casual fan, you're going to wonder, what the hell are they doing? Because it seems like this feud just goes from first gear to third gear and never hits second gear. It seems like, okay, one week they're not doing a whole lot. The next week they're, I guess the equivalent to making out with a girl in the Attitude Era would be, in the PG era, would be kissing her hand and leaving the lipstick there. I don't know. I think it would have been hot if Paige started making out with her hand, though. I think that would have been grape. But, I mean, that's my only real problem with this feud is that for anyone that isn't an AJ or Paige fan, which there aren't a whole lot of them on the internet, so yeah, that's like the only problem I have with this feud. Overall, I have liked it to an extent, but this is nowhere near the feud that I thought it was going to end up being. I mean, it goes from lesbian angle to the most aggressive, female fighting storyline on the show at the snap of a finger. So it's just, I don't know, it feels a little bit weird. But again, I like it, so I'm just fine with it. One thing that does kind of bother me still is that Paige is still stealing AJ's material. It's like at a certain point, you're not Paige anymore, you're Damian Sandow. Anyway, this pretty much wraps up this Raw review. Overall, I personally thought that this episode of Raw, I thought it was alright. I wasn't bored with it like the internet was, but I can totally see where they're coming from as to why they would bury it because of all the filler now that I think about it. So, take it as you want. I thought it was an alright episode. Anyway, this has been the other guy for the MTOMR Reviews saying yada yada yada. Blah, blah, blah.